know, gatekeepers. Is she ever going through that gate? One day we'll get her through there, but I'll tell you what, do not miss tonight's walk through the gate. I am so excited. I am probably going to fly right out of this chair and go around the room a couple times. I'm telling you what, I felt like a human sparkler for about 24 or 48 hours. So, gatekeepers, mods, all my wonderful, wonderful listeners, I'm going to need you tonight in chat because I'll tell you what, something always happens. We have a medium, we have a psychic, we have somebody of um, this kind of talent and ability. There are wonderful people, and there's a lot of let's just say a lot of angst in the world right now, and there's a lot of questions, and there's a lot of connections that people want to make right now, and they start asking questions, and that's not what we're here for tonight. We are going to ask questions, and we are going to have a conversation, but what this is, I'm going to be extremely, extremely selfish tonight. I cannot stand it because I finally get to talk to somebody that, I'm just vibrating with her so much that it's just going to be just a wonderful trip tonight. And I invite you to come along. So mods tonight, if you would not if you would be so kind, wrenches up. If anybody wants to ask questions of our dear, dear guests this evening, please refer them to the .com that I'm going to send across the bottom here. And if you guys don't have the link to Katie's channels, here it is right here, is at the very end of this. So because that way you get a more personal connection, you get that clean energy and all the thought and everything that needed, that connection on that more personal level. Tonight what we're going to do is we're going to have, like I said, we're going to have a conversation. And I can't even describe to you my guest tonight. She has been similar to myself, almost on a parallel journey, which is so cool. Um, Both started in haunted houses, I believe, haunted farmhouses. Um, and then saw our journey, kind of felt our journey along the way into this wonderful paranormal. And I'm so grateful that people like her are out there that have these abilities and have found a way to not just immerse themselves into the paranormal, but try to understand it with a full heart. One of the most beautiful souls I've seen. And I don't just throw that around. When you look in somebody's eyes, you just know. And she's found a way to give that gift back. She's worked with authorities to solve crimes. It's one of those. Not fantastic. She's got her own paranormal investigation group, and it is the Canadian Supernatural Research Society in Canada, and also friends with our dear friend of this podcast, Kat Ward. Um, and you know how much we love her. That's Paranormal Heart Podcast, Kat Ward, and so many other things, including a TV personality. Yes, you've watched Paranormal Survivor. You have seen her describing different things that are happening in these cases. And she's out there involved in them too. So without further ado, I would love to invite you to the conversation I'm going to have with this lovely, beautiful soul, Katie Turner. Come on in here, sweetheart.
Well, hello there. How are you?
Just talk.
It's very nice to see you.
It's a pleasure meeting you. It's a pleasure meeting you. Oh my goodness. It's been so many times your name has come up and you've been interwoven in so many conversations I've had with all our wonderful common friends and acquaintances in this wonderful world of the power wonderful, if you want to call it that way.
Well,
And
I'm
the
flattered.
time, it's timing. It's timing,
Mhm.
you know. And so welcome aboard.
Thank you so much for having me. Thanks, guys. It's a pleasure to be part of this. I'm telling you.
Isn't it wonderful? This is the most wonderful chat. Katie, this is the gatekeepers, Katie. And it's just wonderful to have you all in here. And again, I'm going to lean to the mods tonight. I'm not going to catch every comment. So if there is something you want to ask Katie, or when we're talking, because we're kind of going to be all over the place, the energy is going to be wild. And just keep repeat, do what you guys do. Put it in capital letters, remind me a couple of times, because there is a delay and we're probably going to shoot off in all kinds of different directions. And by the time we get the question, it's 38 seconds later. So it's hard to, wait a minute, what are you talking about? So the mods help out. We have a wonderful chat here, Katie. Welcome. It's just wonderful to have you. It's wonderful to have you. And just to start out, I don't want to do that. You've been around in so many podcasts and interviews. And I got to say, before we go any further, digging around, because I normally listen to a couple of interviews, try to feel that energy and see where, like, where's those other questions? Where can we go here and there? And I picked up a couple and wonderful interviews, wonderful subjects, and I've got 1,000 questions.
Okay.
But there was one where, first of all, it's like that old movie. I forget which one it was. I know Tom Cruise was in it, where she said, "You had me at whatever." Do you remember this? I don't even remember the whole line, but you had me at, "Don't ask me to prove to you ghosts exist. You prove to me they do not. And then we can sit down and chat." Right? You had me there. So everything after that was just gravy and sugar on top. You know what I'm saying? Because that's where I'm at. When did you find yourself there? I mean, I know it's been decades for you. It's been decades for me. We had similar paths. Where did you just go, I'm there. I no longer need to see anything else. I'm tired of the skeptics. I'm tired of, not that it's bad to be a skeptic, but the challenging ones, the ones where no matter what you give them, they're not, like some of these rum bums I've heard interview you, where you just handled it like a queen, just so you know. I was like, you go, girl. But
maybe
it was
that's
palpable.
the Canadian in me, the polite Canadian.
I was like, oh, that's it. I'd have been through the microphone by now. But there are these people out there that no matter what you give them, they're not going to believe. They're not going to, So where did you get to that? Prove to me there isn't. I'm done. I'm here to help. Period.
You know what? Quite frankly, do you know who taught me that? My children.
Yeah.
My children.
Cool beans.
Honestly. So I started, as a paranormal investigator and was going out trying to collect evidence and trying to prove it exists. And all the while, believe it or not, I was hiding behind my paranormal name. I had a conservative job and 9-to-5 job. And, the real estate firm I worked for was a very well-known, well-respected real estate firm. And I was afraid of, quote unquote, causing ripple effects through my job. And, it was you bring your mom, your mom and dad to school day. And, my kids were very proud of the fact that, mom's a ghostbuster, and it wasn't the real estate. It was, mom's a ghostbuster. And I for a second, I was kind of like, how do I approach this? How do I approach this? And I thought, you know what? No, I need to be proud of this. If my children can be proud of what I do, I need to start to have a little bit of self-righteousness, understand the person that I am, understand that I have everything with good intent, and kind of stand up for what I believe in and stop worrying about what others think. And it was at that point that I thought, I need to show my children that I am proud of this and I am who I am. And how else can I do it without being as authentic as possible? And it was at that point that I thought, I'm not going to hide anymore. I'm not going to try and prove my abilities or prove that paranormal exists. I'm going to literally counter back with, prove to me it doesn't. And every time I kind of shoot that back at people, they can't give me an answer. And so it stops the barrage of questions or interrogation, because they can't come up with anything else. And I don't ask people to believe. That's not my job. My job is not to
Mm,
convince you, but I'm
mm,
not going to lower my standards and, you know,
mm,
disbelieve what I'm capturing.
mm. I love all that. I love all that. But my thing is, I get very frustrated. My big thing in this lifetime to come back and work on, it's totally obvious to me, is anger. It's temper. It's I'm a son of thunder. There's just I think I was a warrior in every lifetime ever. You know, it's just one of those things that it's like, okay, that's obvious. I got to work on my composure and my military bearing. I even joined the military just to try to like do something with this, this
Hmm.
energy. I mean, I knew as a teen, you know, and similar to you, I always feel like a stalker when I say stuff like this. I swear that because you go in and you listen to the interviews, if it's an author, you read the books, if it's someone you're interested in, you watch the shows, you do
Right.
so I know a little bit more about you than you know about me, and I always feel like I was like, I promise I'm not
Okay.
stalking you. So
Okay.
I'm listening to these people interview you, and I'm like, no, 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 honey, you're saying you're an ex-investigator. You're throwing your not you, the person interviewing you.
Right.
You're saying you're an ex-investigator and you had to go through so much training to learn how to go into a case and gather evidence, and almost coming at you with a how dare you go into someone's home and investigate with a paranormal group and assess the situation. Meanwhile, he's putting you on the chopping block, and then he's not doing his obvious investigation. If he's just coming at and doing this broad brush and not giving it a chance, it's like saying every rock and roll band sucks. You
Right.
can't. Have you heard the music? Do you know the band? Have you talked to the guitar player? Have you seen the drummer? Do you know
Mhm.
what they can do with their instrument and play the song? Because I've
Yeah.
always looked at paranormal groups like that. I know it sounds crazy, but as a musician, if you go to a good blues night, you never know when you're going to hit gold.
Mhm.
Depends on who you're on stage with,
Right.
what their intent is, what are they there with, what did they bring to the stage,
Mhm.
and you pick a song and you just kind of flow, and that's almost like a case. And I've always been an advocate for, I hated in my decades of all this because I go back to the 60s. So I've watched it change. And I listened to your story about going in, bring mom to show and tell, whatever, that day. And I'm thinking, how much different would it have been in my time?
Right.
My third or fifth, sixth grade, you know. And then I think back at you talking about living in the, haunted farmhouse. I also, in Jackson, New Jersey, haunted farmhouse is where I got my start, and I can remember, and it got me started on that journey, you
Right.
know? And also you mentioning I had to go to libraries. I had to I had to research this, what happening. Can
Mhm.
you speak a little on that? On your journey in that beginning time there where you were searching.
Yeah. So my parents, we lived in a city, and my parents decided that the farm life would be better. So when I was, I think I had just turned 6 years old, my parents had moved us up to this farm, and it was an older farmhouse. And shortly after I got there, I mean, I had psychic ability before that. There are stories of me, you know, talking to dead loved ones, at 2, 3 years old and relaying messages. But it really kind of amped up when I moved on farm. And when I would say probably pubescent age, 12, 13, I started really kind of thinking like, What's going on? I'm seeing this, feeling this, you know, um, I remember waking up in the morning and coming out of my room and hearing conversations and thinking, that's weird. My parents are up early. Like, to find out that it really wasn't them at all. I was hearing full-fledged spiritual conversations, and I always call it now the clock radio effect, where you can't make out what they're saying, but you can hear the conversation. And so I used to have those experiences, and it was when I started to I was in high school, and I was kind of like not comfortable in my skin. I was having these feelings. I was picking up on a emotional level what it was like with the other kids in school and just not feeling like I fit. I'd walk into a crowded room and it just didn't feel like I fit with these people. And it was at that point that I started kind of diving into it. I'm pretty blessed because my family's extremely sensitive and open to this stuff. So it was a normalcy for me. It was dinner table talk. It wasn't as if it was shunned or shut down or, you know, on my both my mother and father's side, there were, there's sensitivity. So it's not as if it was something I had to fight against. And my parents encouraged me in the sense of being protective about it. Just be protected if you're going to research this stuff. When I got into college, it really amped up and I was like, okay, something's happening. And it was at that point that I really started to go to haunted locations and just trying to capture evidence very amateurly. Yeah, very amateurly. I had no idea what I was doing, but I used all the information that I gained from history books and from paranormal books and from people in the paranormal, the Warrens,
Mhm.
like
Closer,
looking exactly
closer.
how
Hans.
they kind of, I didn't want to emanate them, but I at
Mhm.
least knew
I
that there was
understand.
some sort of kindredship there. And it was at
Mhm.
that point that that's when I delved into it. Once I got into my career and all that stuff, that's when it took off. And I thought, I'm making a paranormal team. Like there's so much happening here. And I know I know that if I'm experiencing this, then other people on my team or, other people in the world are experiencing it. And why not make a family about it and help other people? I had
Mhm.
no intentions of being a full-time psychic. I had my career. I was training horses. I was running a real estate office. I didn't intend on being a psychic medium. I knew I had the abilities.
Found you. It found you. And,
Yeah.
I try to explain that all the time. They say, we've never really found something comfortable to say, or at least I haven't, and I find a lot of people in our at this point in our trip in all this, this wonderful journey, we usually get to the point where we're like, ghost hunter, no, like even though wonderful people that I respect, like Peter Underwood, and even the funky Harry Price, all be all and end all that he was, with his trickery here and his things there, he hit on some good points,
Yeah.
Harry Price,
Mhm.
and some good things on investigating and getting a group together. I mean, pulling everybody out of different colleges and having them getting into the Borley Mansion for long periods of time of study rather than just an overnighter or a couple hours, like they
Mhm.
portray on the some TV shows, And I've heard you speak on that, and I'd love to touch on that real quick with you. Not to zigzag around, but I have a feeling
Mhm.
that's the way spirits have got this conversation. It's just I'm just beep, 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 beep.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things, It's like what people need to hear. That's what's gonna happen tonight, and I
Right.
think it's so cool. So, you go back I wanna go back to the journey again because
Mhm.
for me, it was so similar, yet, as I understand, you had a family, you could talk, it was dinner table talk. You never mentioned it in my household. I grew up in a household of, Brady Bunch, mid, to late '60s this was happened. I was born '62, so I'm little bitty in this farmhouse that I was in, a couple years. Everybody teenagers, there's 6 female teenagers, 13 and up, the energy, right? One teenage male, the one of the oldest, my
My
brother, half brother.
condolences.
I know. I'm the baby, so, I saw everything from somebody's hip at this point. You
Right.
can you imagine, right? And it's a haunted house. Now my dad, World War II, um, back then shell shock, uh, so he's that 1960s male, you come home, martinis of 4,
Mhm.
you know? Um, the yelling started around 6. You know, 'cause because we're having all kinds of energy going back and forth, bebopping around. So, as a kid, now I'm telling you the story for a reason, so you can kind of parallel it with yourself. As a kid, you looking at it, I see it from one vantage point, and now it's a memory. The craziness. Dad's at it again. Um, there's a Revolutionary War soldier ghost there that I swear
Mhm.
at this time, looking back with hindsight and knowledge, theory, he probably died there hiding. This was all Revolutionary War early,
Okay.
colonial America, all around in their skirmishes, war, all kind of stuff. That's where this farmhouse was. So it's not unlikely.
Mhm.
Everybody, you couldn't talk about it, Katie. Dad would go off nonsense. So who wants to set that off?
Right.
And beer bottle slammed against the wall, and who's what? 3 o'clock in the morning, the screaming would start. I can remember somebody had a golf club, somebody had a shoe.
Yeah.
It's one of these, and everybody's down in the hallway, and what's going on? But then that's kid view. I look back and slowly peeling over decades, 20, 25 years, family reunions, pieces, parts, they were seeing it too. They were seeing him show up in the bedroom. They knew something was in the cellar that wasn't good. Nobody wanted to go in the barn, but we couldn't talk about it then. So I had to wait 30 years to
Right.
get pieces and go, wow, that did happen. So I wonder the difference with my scrambling around in the library, my trying to get a hold of somebody explaining to me what's going on here, because I'm getting stuff as a teenager, young teen, seeing things. I think at one point, though, Katie, I shut it off. I said, I don't want to see it. I'll hear it, but I can't take seeing it anymore. Shut it off. Can't get that back on. Don't know that I should, you know.
Hmm.
But other than that, Hans Holzer, trying to understand what was going on with Sybil Leek and Ethel Myers and
Hmm.
the Warrens, and just like you. Now, you looking at it from the other end of being able to talk about it, how much different do you think that must have been? You were able to really get your abilities out there and hone them and use them, put them out front.
Oh, you know what? Every psychic child I work with, if I had a nickel for every parent that contacted me, freaking out, thinking there was mental health issues, talking to adults that went through years of therapy and were put in, had mental institution stays, and all to find out that they had psychic abilities that their family were afraid of and suppressed. And so when I work with psychic children, or I have a mother or father that contacts me and they're afraid, the first thing that I tell them is, please don't shut the kid down.
It
Yes,
is.
there is a mental health concern in some circumstances, absolutely,
Mhm.
but document it, document it, document it. Write it down, put it in a journal. Don't stress about it. Just let it go.
Listen
And
to them, because the
exactly.
validation is everything, and they're not gonna go searching, get the Ouija board to see what the spirit, in the closet is. And again, Katie is right there with me when this chat knows that when I say earthbound spirit ghosts,
Mm-hmm.
they know that they're different than
Yep.
the spirits who have crossed over and the enlightenment they get. And
Mm-hmm.
I have a great question for you at the end of this conversation to help me sort a case. But you know, uh, I think that that's so important because kids with abilities will search for those answers, and it can take them down a dark path.
Mm-hmm.
It's so important. And you have something where you work with kids, do you not?
Yes. Yep.
Please
So,
talk about that.
well, when a parent contacts me, they'll say, what's going on with my child, or what can I do? And the first thing I say is, like, can I meet them? I want to meet them. I don't want to talk to you, mom and dad. I want to talk to the kid.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah,
With your permission, I tell the parents, please come with me. I want the
yeah.
parents with me. And I go and have conversations. You know, um, it's a funny thing how children can get into self-harming, cutting, releasing of different tensions, all because they're ungrounded. And, you know, there's a lot of medications and psychiatric help that parents try to do. And I think that's amazing. I think those steps should always be taken. But sometimes when I can enlighten a child, or, a young adult, about what's actually happening, and make them understand that they're not alone and that they can contact me if they have questions,
Mhm,
usually all of that stuff stops.
mhm,
A lot of
mm,
the stuff stops. So
mhm,
I'll go and I'll spend some time. Sometimes I'll go a few times. Sometimes I have to teach them how to protect themselves, or I teach them how to dial down their abilities a little bit. I
mhm.
explain it like brushing teeth. Everybody brushes their teeth and
I
understands.
love this. Listen closely, guys.
Sometimes,
Listen closely.
sometimes people like the tap and the faucet turned on high, and sometimes it's trickles, and sometimes you shut it off in between rinses. And so I just tell them to dial it down a bit. Just turn the water to where you're comfortable. And once I teach the child that they have the power to do that,
Mhm.
and the parent, we're dealing with a totally different type of kid. You're going to see
Mhm.
enlightened vibration. You're going to see better school marks. You're going to see better
Mhm.
sleep, all of those
Mhm.
things. So it comes down to taking the time with the kids,
Mhm.
not writing them
Mhm.
off.
And listening because and letting them speak because and I can speak on that because this really affected generations
Hmm.
in my home because I can see how it affected my older siblings, you know, and how
Hmm.
they dealt with everything and really how you deal with things in life. You don't like something, you put it under, and you and I both know if you have any kind of abilities, energy is going to find a way out. So if you
No.
have abilities and, this is where you get, and if I'm wrong, please tell me, you get, your energy is going to find a way to manifest. So you get your PK, you get your teenagers that, things might be moving. It could be you. And again, this is something that good paranormal teams sort out. And it's so much easier to do that when you allow the sensitive in, when you let the people with abilities in and you bring the feelings back. I don't know if you noticed, I'm sure you did, back when some of these paranormal shows first started, and I'm going back decades now because it really started when ghost hunters came in and said, we're just going scientific. We're here to debunk. This is where debunk comes from. You know, they started throwing that around and said, we're going to take all the feelings out. It's just stuff we can show, prove, get to happen again, get on film, whatever, EVP. And I'm thinking, oh, here we go. As soon as you take the feeling out, as soon as you take out your human intuition, which is natural,
Hmm.
everybody, I agree with you, everybody has abilities. You have to exercise them, whatever it may be. And soon as you take it out, now you just have what? You have a voice on a tape. You have, okay, who is it? Well, that's Bob who died. Oh, Bob, he died in a tractor accident, back in the 1920s, and that's him. Well, honey, no, it isn't. You know,
Yeah.
that's, Bob crossed, and, this is such and such who died in a car accident a mile and a half down. He's here because his energy connects with somebody's energy in this house that he recognizes a depression, a sadness, a longing, a
Right.
loss, a regret. And, then you've got the people who say it's a brand new house.
Hmm.
Nothing's ever happened here. Why is my house haunted? We're still there.
Right.
And Katie, it can be so frustrating. Because we're still almost in the same place we were 50 years ago. But I'm so glad to see the pendulum swing back and bringing back that sensitive intuition, filters, spirits, and that metaphysical back into the investigations. What do you think about that?
I 100% agree. And quite frankly, I think my team and I we're family. I don't like to even call it my team. I use that for kind of identification, but it's our team because, I have a one investigator, a couple investigators that, founded it with me. So I can't say it's my team. But for the sake of discussion on my team, we're really um we're about the energy. And when we go into certain locations that other teams have been in, we've seen documentation with like, yeah, there's nothing here. Man, there's nothing. No, we didn't get anything. And I'm not discounting them. And I'm not saying that they're bad investigators. And I'm not saying that they're not successful. But because we go in with the energy that we go in, we always get results.
That's it.
And
100%.
yeah,
100% intent, 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 intent. It's the
absolutely.
band that gets on stage at the blues night and plays
Yeah,
the song where everybody just stops and goes,
yeah.
it's the same thing. I tell people all the time, listen, the ghosts are sitting there. Peter Underwood said it in one of his little Ghost Watch stories. Wonderful vat of information there with all the decades of time he spent as president, I believe, of the Ghost Hunter Society in the
Hmm.
UK. I mean, a very
Hmm.
established, so I mean, the vat of information. And even back in like the 40s, early 50s, he's saying that, we'll go in and we go in with a different, I think he used a word like disposition, something along those lines.
Hmm.
And he says the ghosts that were hiding in the corners for all the others who went through before, come out to speak to us, because I believe it has something to do with this. Hans Holzer said the same thing. So many people, not even getting into you're only dealing with human earthbound spirits at this point that
Right.
we're talking about. When you start adding in elementals, when you start adding in the ancients that were here before we were ever here, before dirt, totally
Yeah.
different ball of wax, then the extra dimensionals and all this other stuff. Now you're just, and we can't wrap our minds around the human, earthbound spirit. And
Right.
we still hear things like, well, ghosts can't do that, you know. Ghosts won't. The one when I was little was ghosts can't hurt you. No, that just, ghosts can't hurt. It's okay. They can make you hurt yourself. They can scare you. You know,
Yeah.
if you heard anything, this was the kind of stuff that I was hearing. People still believe these things. My house is new. How can it be haunted? We
Mm.
still can't wrap our mind around that. And I hear you describe things the same as I do, as listen, it could be and in the kitchen, but you're not paying attention to the signs she's leaving you. She's tried everything else, and now she's banging the cabinets.
Yeah.
This is something she knows how to do. It doesn't mean you have, the big D word isn't, everywhere, which is what the TV programs have had to. It's almost a natural progression to, more blood, more this, more that, along with everything. Gosh, you couldn't show an ankle when I was a kid on, Gilligan's Island. Ginger's belly button just threw the whole network out of whack, and
Yeah.
Jeannie too. But now you just can watch a zombie get his head blown off 24/7 on at least 13 different channels, any time of the day. So
Yeah.
everything has changed, including the paranormal. What I love about you is I've watched you for a while, and you've never lost the heart. You've never lost the, I wanna just help people. I wanna, and people don't realize how much that takes out of your physical well-being, your time at home, your time,
Yeah.
everything. I can talk about Amy Allen, Kim Russo, Sylvia Brown, all of these people throughout time. They have no idea, Echo Bodine, how much time they have put into this, and how much physical they've actually given up knowingly,
Yeah.
you know, and then that's why it irks me so much when I brought up in the beginning of the show at these people that get on there and they think because they were a prior investigator or whatever, these, Mike Hammer dudes, and they come out there and they say, well, we were taught to investigate, and what gives you the right, not even doing the research on the person you're talking to understand that this person has spent decades of selfless time and given of themselves to do this. Not everybody is an ambulance chasing charlatan, with somebody reading in the audience with microphone and stuff and cheating people. Not everybody, you
Yeah.
know.
Well, thank
You
you.
know, you're very welcome, and like I said, you handled it like a queen, which made me love you even more, so there you
Oh,
go.
thank you.
But
Thank you.
but that's
I,
something people forget. They're just
yeah.
because I think people have gotten more needy and more desperate and more, and that's, I see it. I get it. I get it. I get it. But if they would just listen, there's an answer in it for everybody.
Yeah.
If we're saying that we believe in ghosts, there's no doubt in my mind. Is there any doubt in your mind?
No,
Not a smidge, not a smidge.
not
You
even
know,
close. Yeah.
there's no doubt in my mind that energy does not be just, it does not get destroyed. I'm right there with the Daniel Brinkleys of the how many NDEs does this man had? I think he's what, how many times he got struck by lightning? Three, two, I think it's like three
Right.
times or something, right? And he crossed and he still didn't get, he comes back after the second time, still an asshole. That's Daniel's words, and I can say that because it's a fellow brother vet. So, and happy Vet's Day there, Daniel. But he, the things that mean. This is a man who, he was boots on the ground Vietnam.
Yeah.
He saw some things. He came back. He admits, he was, cocaine and women and fast cars and this and that. And he says that he was a jerk. He and he dies. He gets hit by lightning. He dies. He goes over. He changes a little. Time spent. He goes back to his old ways. It happens again. Um, believe it or not, it took for a little longer, but he admits it, let go, and it happens again. By this time, he comes back, he's hugging everybody. Have you heard him tell this story?
Well,
He's hug
yeah, he's
ha
completely changed his mind frame.
yeah,
Completely took the
j j
ego out of him, which
j
is fantastic.
kicked it right out, but 3 times, 3 times. Well, so he comes back and he's hugging everybody. So he's at parties and he's hugging. Somebody says to him, you're a real huggy guy. He goes, hey, dude, it's okay. I'm not hugging you. I'm hugging me. Because when I get back over there,
Yeah.
I'm going to need these hugs. The things that I've done, I'm going to feel the things that I've done. Not only am I going to see what I did, but I'm going to feel what the person felt that I did it to. You see
Yep.
what I'm saying? So if I'm hugging,
Mhm.
which leads me to ask you about, I am of the mind that we are all one, that we
Yes.
are in this vast ocean of energy. And you reach in, you take
Mhm.
a bucket out, and you can put your hand in, get a cup, and just flick it all over that's us. The
Mhm.
droplets go everywhere, but we're all still part. And I
Yes.
think if we got a hold of that thought, we'd be a
Mhm.
lot kinder to each other. I mean, it's
I
a
think,
simple thought, but what do you
yeah,
think?
no, and I agree. I think that we all go back to source. I think we're all, and I think that because of that, yeah, I think we treat each other kinder, but at the same time, I think that we feed off of each other more than we realize. So, you had talked about vibration before the show, and you're vibrating high, and I had a day like that too. The only way I can describe it is like if you had like, a bunch of coffee and smoked a few packs of
Yeah,
cigarettes and you were
yeah,
vibrating. That's
yeah,
how I
yeah.
felt today.
Good
And
too.
I worked all day.
I swear I expected you to pop up into my bedroom last night because I kept thinking, is she thinking about me? Because I'm thinking about her. Is she, it was just so funny because it's kind of like our energies or our spirit guides are at the bar talking to each other or
Yeah,
something because we were connected in preparing for this show and I could feel that energy. So that
yeah,
was sparking it off too. It was like I felt like a human sparkler for 2 days. Seriously.
yeah,
But go ahead. I'm sorry I
yeah.
interrupted.
No,
Go ahead.
it's okay. I feel like there's, because of the universal energy, because of
Hmm.
the how we all feed off of it. I feel like that, the events around the world that are happening right now, we
Hmm.
are connected and we're feeling it consciously or subconsciously.
Global
And
empaths at this point, global empaths. I mean, we're picking up on all of it, honey. The loosh and this, and again, that's why we do these shows. That's why we do this intro. I have this bombastically long intro, but by the time you get in here and you're chit and chat and you're welcoming friends you haven't seen in a week, connected into these human beings around the world, these wonderful listeners, these gatekeepers around the
Mhm.
world. We've got people in Scotland and UK and Canada and California, and New York State and Kentucky and West Virginia. I go all over the place. It's insane. Vietnam. Yeah,
Right?
it's like, welcome. And, South Africa. And, we're reaching around the world right now and we're sending out this love light. This is the most wonderful chat and this wonderful group of light workers. That's why we can talk like this and you don't have to go through well, I did this and I did this. You can start right here. You can talk
Yeah.
about, yep, Bigfoot's an elemental. So I'm like, absolutely goes in between interdimensional, and we're jumping off of that ledge, you know,
Right.
and we all come in here to recharge and reconnect and then go back out into the world and try to keep our candles lit in the storm, and it's harder and harder, but that's when you got to lean in, like,
Yeah.
got to lean
It's hard.
in.
I think we're going through a spiritual warfare right now. I think that
100%, 100%.
I was attacked a couple weeks ago, not physically, but spiritually. Many people I know that are attacked. I feel like finances are becoming an issue for everybody. Health is becoming an issue. Like it's just trying to slowly break us down. And it's
Yep.
tough. It's kind of like it's almost like a firmament of energy that's being placed
Mhm,
upon us.
mhm,
They're
mhm, mhm.
trying to bring us down a little bit, and I find that difficult. I do. I find
Yes,
it difficult. It's
so much.
and it's hard to keep everybody else floating
Mhm,
when you're trying to float too,
mhm, mhm, mhm.
energetically.
It's like being off just jumped off the Titanic, honey, the lifeboats, and you're
Yeah.
just you're float, and it's true because you and I, and I don't mean to put myself in the same category of what you've done in the paranormal and what you've accomplished. I don't mean to do that. What I mean is,
Okay.
understanding, this where we are at that
Mhm.
point, I found ways to reach out. I wrote a book about experiences and tried to make it so this is exactly what it sounded like. This is what it looked like. Does yours match up to this? Can you validate your experience out of
Yeah.
anything that happened to me, and just tried to tell it like it was,
Mhm.
because I was that girl that went to the library. I had nobody in my family to talk to. If you mentioned it, my dad, who wants to start a fight? Who wants to dig around in that? But again, looking back, I look at this and I said, well, and this kind of goes with the world thing too, you were just talking about. Did he, coming into that environment, wake it up, set it off with his energy, because he was that kind of, 6 foot, this man is like 6'9". He's got look like Robert Mitchum. So
Mhm.
you got away with some stuff.
Mhm.
As soon as you say that to a lady,
Mhm.
they go, "Oh, okay, he was a bad boy. They got
Mhm.
away with some stuff." That's the way it is. Yes, that's the truth. He's married 7 times. And my mother was the only one that outlived him. All this is true. But anyway,
Good
he just
Lord.
had this bombastic, and then a house full of teenagers, old 200-year-old farmhouse that happened to be haunted in every crevice of its being, this house. So you got all this fighting and everything else. But, did that, or what was the energy in the house, did that affect him? I think it's both. Wouldn't
Yeah.
you say it could very well be feeding off of each other
Well, I think
and
it
the
comes down to a
abuse?
vibration, right? I think it comes down to a vibration. So
Yep, yep.
if you had, for example, in your situation, you had a spirit that was army and was, died waiting, and so that kindredship with your dad and that gentleman
I
type
didn't
thing.
even think about the military connection. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Decades. And you're learning every minute of every day, people.
yeah.
That's lesson number one. You learn constantly. Go ahead. I'm sorry. That's a
It's okay.
brilliant. Yeah. I didn't even
And I
think about the
think
military.
I think if it's haunted by multiple ghosts, it depends on what they what your kindredship is.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
Right? In my
And the thing,
situation, there was some psychic, there were some spirit kids outside that I had seen a few times. There was issues in the barn, there was talking, there was,
mhm,
it wasn't malevolent, but it was active.
mhm,
Um, and I think that, having not being afraid, like, not being afraid of that stuff, not having a malevolence,
mhm,
helped me not to be afraid and made me more intrigued. I think if somebody moves into a haunted location that's like out and out demonic, or you have some pissy spirit that really doesn't want you there, that makes your life a living hell, I think that changes the experience. So if you're in fear all the time, those entities like to feed off of that. I think
mhm,
for me, I describe myself as a light in a dark room, in the sense that I was like this beacon, and they knew I could see them, and therefore they wanted to communicate more. So they did their best not to startle me, right? They did
mhm,
their best to kind of understand that. And uh, you know, going back to feeding that in the environment that you're in, it's all about vibration. If somebody's vibrating high, I mean, let's get into it a little further. Why is it that a couple or a family can live in a house and one is seeing all the spirits and one is not seeing a thing?
mhm,
Right? Can you
mhm,
say
mhm.
one individual is more psychic than the other, or is it the vibrational frequency that other person can tap into? So
Not
I
only
think that
that, what is the spirit? What is the earth? First of all, is it an earthbound human spirit?
right,
What's its motivation?
right,
What's it trying to do? What's its powers? What does it know it can do? What has it learned it can do?
right.
What's it after? There's so many questions. Okay, and what if you're dealing with something a little smarter, like saying something that was, or just say even another human spirit that has a whole different agenda, where it's just added, realize that scaring the person is how it gets its energy, and
Mhm.
that's its only mission in life, to scare and to get that loose, to get that fear
Mhm.
energy and get that adrenaline off that person, and that's what it's all about. It's learn to do that to survive however it helps them survive. Then you've got your malevolent entity that might have been never human,
Mhm.
right? That's so much smarter, so much more powers, and a whole different agenda, and after a whole bigger piece of the pie, you know? Basically, in some cases, your very soul, your essence, your human essence, or just to break you down and separate you from your family, and I know you've seen multiple cases like that. I've heard multiple cases like this, and, we see it time and time and time again, and I've heard you describe it, where I've heard people ask you, "How does it all start?" Well, it always starts small, and it always builds up, whether it's a Ouija board, whether it's a home, whether it's something attached to someone,
Mhm.
all of this, and it seems to follow very broad rules, but not necessarily all of them, and in any order they damn well please, it seems, you
Right.
know? And that's another reason to go back and be so grateful that smart teams are really taking people very much like First Nations tribal people or tribal anywhere around the globe. If you had it didn't matter who you were, if you were a better hunter, that's what you did. If you were better at, making moccasins or making, clothes, that's what you did. If this, whatever your talent was, and not worrying so much about the stigma of it or who had to move into this. When you have a good group, you might have a great tech person. I know you do too. Historian, someone, researchers, sensitives, and
Yep.
usually, like you said, a lot of people in that group turn out to be sensitive, didn't know they were because they're
Mhm.
now tapping into that,
Right.
you know? I
Yep.
think that's amazing too, and trying to sort all that. Again, the minute you hear an interview with someone like yourself, and the person is you get that trying to trap them. It's like, what gives you the authority to do a cleansing? What gives you the authority to do this, to do that? Again, how are we not, how far removed from the Pharisees are we? You know what I mean? It's the same damn questions for 2,000 years. By the authority given with me from my creator, that I have the power, my light inside of me, to banish and rebuke anything that's going to come up my space. And when we tell the young kids this, you have the ability to tell the thing in your closet, no, I can't help you now. Shut it down. You don't have to go down. Let me go get a Ouija board and try to talk to this thing and try to sort what's going on and make it worse and escalate and have
Yep.
things like you and I know that can happen with these things that can cause sickness, that can cause death, that can suck the essence out of an elderly person that says they're seeing things just like these kids. You know, I know you've been on cases like that too, and why we take it so damn serious, Katie. And for these people to just treat it like it's a flippant thing, they have no idea how much investigation, how dedicated the paranormal are. I have a thing I say, you go to a convention or whatever, and the people, the pearl clutchers, and the grab their kids, the scary paranormal people in the black t-shirts. I'm like, yeah, but when your kids start floating around the living room, those paranormal people will be the first ones to show up at your door. Sit in your couch and make sure your kids are safe,
Yep.
because it happens,
Yep.
you know.
I take it even a step further. When I was vetting my team, I made I made them get police background checks, and I made them understand that, like, I've gone through a lot of paranormal people, a lot of people that are like, yeah, I want to investigate. No, you want to do what you think you see on TV. And so once they realize how monotonous and how sometimes boring
Mhm.
that it can be, they're kind of out the door. But like my team members, like, they are seriously dedicated people who want answers just like I do, and they're going in with the active intent to help, and to try and get answers for these people, or at the very
Mhm,
least, being able to cleanse and get rid of what is going on in the house.
mhm. And
No,
also
no,
to help the dead as well, because I know
yeah,
you go in there and you're trying to sort, "Why are you here?" But you know why? Because we did go to the library and we did get people like Hans Holzer who went in there. He had that very, that strict kind of, a way of dealing with, "Well, you can't stay here, so just tell me what it is," he's talking through as, the trance mediums, it's usually Sybil Leek or Ethel Myers, but he did talk to them, and I mean, wonderful stories like in Ghost I met with where he went into the, Jamal Mansion here, but not far from where I am in, New York State. Very famous for all that Revolutionary War stuff, like George Washington and all that stuff, he stayed everywhere. I'm sure even in Canada, you heard about him. Crazy, he traveled a lot apparently. But the whole thing, Katie, was so interesting because it really, even back then, got to the heart of, I th I dare to say why you and I are in this is because she goes into a trance, immediately they pick up on, the woman of the house there, who has been accused basically of killing her husband,
mhm,
okay? The husband comes through, "They killed me." He finds out they buried him, he wasn't even, dead yet, so he's buried alive. They apparently, fooled him into some kind of carriage ride, one of the servant boys was in on it, he got, stabbed with a pitchfork. The doctor comes, she undoes the bandages and lets him linger in his wounds and all this crazy stuff, horrid, horrid stuff. We always think if it happened 100 years ago, it's easier to talk about, but can you imagine this poor guy, right? I mean, he could have been a jerk, but nobody deserves this kind of mess.
right,
So, of course, it causes this lingering after death kind of situation. He's stuck there. She's there because she doesn't want to be accused and she's still not owning up to it. Hans finally gets her to break and finally has to call their daughter from the other side to come over and walk them both across individually because they were still
mhm,
still that
mhm,
hung up. But when you read stories like that at 13 and you're getting into this, that is a wonderful foundation to start on.
yep,
And I wonder who your influences were. Who were your mentors? Who were your, guides? And what did they teach you that you use now that you just are really like your anchors, um, that give you that strength to do what you do and continue to do it after we know the cost.
yeah.
And thank
Um,
you for it.
so believe it or not, my grandmother was the most
Wonderful.
psychic person I ever met in my life, but she was afraid of it. So growing up with her, she was very psychic, very, very intuitive, wonderful medium. She saw things that scared her.
Mhm,
So having that as a young kid, in terms of like celebrities or well respected, Hans Holzer, the Warrens, um, and when I was really not really young, but I don't want to date myself, but
mhm,
there used to be a show that used to come on. I can't even think of the name of the show, but it was all about ancient mysteries. It was all about getting delving into, the
mhm.
occult and delving into, basically, the underground and stuff like that. And I remember, like sitting there taking notes and going, okay, in the library, I'm gonna, because it was
Yeah,
before Google, right?
right,
It's like,
right, right.
okay, so when I get to the library, I'm gonna write this down. And I'm gonna try and research this and try to look into the different. Like I didn't know what clairs were,
Mhm.
clairaudience and
Right,
clairsentience, and I didn't know what that was. I just knew I could see, hear, feel, and smell
right.
and feel them. And so it was kind of going into that. So there was a lot of books, there was a lot of studies of ghost phenomenon. I remember my dad had a book and it was called Ghosts, and it was about
Mhm,
this thick, and it was all accounts, usually a lot of British accounts, that I used to flip through and try and kind of, well,
mhm.
when I had this experience, it looked like this, and I understand
Oh,
this,
yeah.
understanding
And
ectoplasm and
those snaps when those puzzle pieces came together and you
yep,
could get another little glimpse of that cover to the box, man. It's like a moment and
yeah,
it's such a special moment, especially the kids. Like now I don't, the internet. Wow. It's almost outdone it. And again, I'm going to ask you about that before I let you go. And if you have to go, just tell me because I could, I could be here till 5, 6 in the morning and I'd still be going because I'm on energy now. So have to be the one having the break
that's
zone.
okay. I got
So
another 20 minutes in me, and then I gotta get.
perfect,
Yeah,
perfect. But just keep an eye on it because
yeah,
so it is amazing because we really had to dig for it. And I tell Steve Stockton this all the time. He comes on with me on Mondays, laying on the book, looking at the encyclopedia, reading about like the Philadelphia experiment as well, because it was a mystery, and the Bermuda Triangle and, all these different things, just trying to grasp all of this and Bigfoot, again. Now I think really fortunate in that area because I got glimpses of the First Nations and the indigenous people because I'm Lenape and Cherokee with a little bit of Scotch. But the matriarchal side of my family, my mom's mother and her mother, they grew up in the East Coast of New Jersey, and in the East Coast in Americas at that time, my grandmother was born 1890. So again, you're still dealing with all of that. Don't tell them you're Native American. You'll lose all your stuff and they'll go to Oklahoma, basically. Let's
yeah,
just tell the truth. So they kept everything a secret. And I think towards the end of their lives, they regretted not being able to talk about who they were. I mean, of course, had you not being able to. But when I was little, I used to get grabbed and I'd hear little things like it might be herbal cures told to me in secret, like they were the family jewels locked away. They'd tell it like they were telling me a big secret. They'd get them locked up. I mean, that's how tenuous they were about their information. The big thing was about there are things in the woods we do not speak of because if you do, they can hear you. They know. And they weren't kidding. So now I'm 6, I'm, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'm hearing things like, if you go into the woods and everything goes quiet, go back your tracks and leave just with honor, respect, and walk away. Don't
right,
go further. I don't want them to take you with them. Things like a Sagway, a Sasquatch, they are half here and half in the spirit world. They come and go as they please, like doorways, like people go through doorways.
yeah,
6 years old. So as I grew up, it was no problem for me to believe these things and expand on that. And I'd love
right,
before you go, let's talk a little bit about that and a little bit about time slips, and wind it up because I think you were referring to when you saw those kids at the fence line in your farmhouse, that
mhm,
you may have walked into a time slip, like they noticed you too. Very
yep,
much like Sasquatch notices us too. I think they vibrate on different frequencies, all of that. I'm all
absolutely.
about it.
I'm
I'm
all.
all about it.
I think. I think Bigfoot most certainly is interdimensional or
Mhm,
elemental.
mhm.
One of the two, in the sense that it can come and go, and notice most of the pictures are pixelated.
She does, AJK.
It's
Yes,
hard to. Oh,
she
can you
does.
help us? I do.
Yeah.
I
Yes,
do.
she does. She's amazing. Yes.
Yeah.
And I hope you
Um.
will come back on again because I feel like we just scratched the surface. Please,
Of
because we can
course.
learn
Yeah.
so much. It's amazing.
Yeah. No, I think that I often, I don't know if you knew of one of the shows I did recently where we talked about tapping into timelines, and I'll get into it really quick, but
Please do. Yeah.
um, I had a scenario where uh, my best friend and I have horses together. We ride together often, and so we were boarding at a barn that was very close to home, and so my ex-husband and her husband are good friends. So we were all deciding that the day before that, my girlfriend was going to come over and pick me up and drop her husband off, and the boys were going to hang out and we were going to go out riding. And so we had planned, the next day, this is what's going to happen, and I'll pick you up. And so the next day comes and she pulls into the driveway and she's alone. And I'm like, that's really weird. Like, that's so weird. What's going on? And so I kind of motioned for her to come into the door, and she's looking at me confused, and she came in, and I said to her, like, where's your hubby? And she's like, what are you talking about? I said, we talked about this yesterday. Like, I was so
Mhm.
confused. I was like, where was I for this? Did I dream this? And so I went and spoke to my husband, and I said to him, like, do you remember this? Like, do you remember the conversation? He goes, yeah. We all discussed we were all getting together. We were all gonna, he was gonna come over and hang out. You ladies were gonna go riding. They had no idea what we were talking about. And it goes into a he said, she said type of situation.
Right.
And I firmly believe that we tapped into a different timeline. We did this time shift. And,
Yeah.
my best friend, she's the most honest as they come. There's not a lie in that girl's soul. So
Mhm.
there's nothing she's going to benefit from, but
Right.
they had no idea what we were talking about. And again, I really think that happens more times than not.
Yes. I
I
do
think
too.
people recollect things not necessarily wrongly, but they recollect them differently because of certain things. I think the Mandela effect is
Yes.
extremely real,
Yes.
and I think that there's more research that needs to be done.
It's like a shift. I often explain it like, and I'm in no way, quantum entanglement, you know what I mean?
Mhm,
But it's like a book and the pages got wet somehow.
mhm.
And you can start to see the writing on the pages underneath bleeding through.
Yep,
Like,
that's a great
how do
analogy.
you know that the footsteps you're hearing coming down the steps, there's a haunting and not you last Tuesday?
Right?
Or something, or
Yep,
like you said, the kids that you saw along the fence line, they noticed you too, as you noticed them. My mom was the best teacher, as you said, I think it was your grandfather possibly that comes back in, a visitation of, do I have that correct? From the
yes,
other
my grandfather,
crossed over,
mhm.
but comes back.
Yeah, yeah, my
The
a lot of
best
family members
teacher,
come back. Yeah,
best teacher, right? My
yep,
mom did the same to me. I lost her at 11. When I first started to see her, she would be in my room. I'm at my
mhm,
her sister's house. She's in my room, and I thought when she saw me, it was like when she'd see me, she'd and poof, gone. And for the longest time as a kid, again, perspective over decades, go
okay,
figure. At first, I thought I was scaring her, and
mhm,
now I'm looking at it like, what if she was just wherever she was, thinking about loving me and thinking about me? I'm thinking about her, and we connected, and we both scared each other. Do you see what I'm saying? It
yep,
wasn't like, if I think about her, I can show up in the room, I think she was
yep,
worried about me. I think it's just a love connection that really connects us, because, again, if the things in the woods, I can't talk about them because they can hear me, how much
mhm,
stronger is the connection that I have with someone I love that much?
yeah,
And I cannot I don't know how many thousands of episodes and time and conversations. That is my number one thing to reach out and tell people, that love is eternal. It lasts. Our pets are fine. They come and they go, not like they're not held back like human beings. They don't have all this. I describe it like a big trench coat with big pockets and rocks, and all of our lower vibrational feelings drag us down and hold us back. Get rid of those. Empty your Ghost 101. Empty your pockets. Don't take that regret.
mhm,
Whatever. Get rid of all those if you can. Animals don't have that. And my mom taught me, seeing her before she crossed and then later on after, and the differential, all that gone, the pain
mhm,
gone, up, hair done, makeup on, we're going place, you know what I mean? The smile.
yep,
And now I've got the telepathic. And that's what taught me.
mhm,
And I think your advanced experience has taught you so much, and I cannot wait to have you back, and I can't thank you enough. I don't think you get thanked enough for
oh, thank
the
you.
selfless time and everything of reaching out and helping people through
Oh,
stuff like
thank you.
this. Even though I know it's a time where it seems like there's never enough, a conversation like this, you're still gonna have people that think, I didn't get a reading. I needed to hear from my mom. I need to know she's okay. I need to know my dog is okay. I miss such and such, or I feel
Mhm,
bad. I think from this conversation that we can get, love is eternal.
Yep.
Life goes on.
And I think love is the highest vibration.
Yes, agree.
I think it's the
Agree.
highest vibration, and I think that if we weren't so stuck in the three-dimensional, and realize that a lot of the stuff, fear is a human emotion. It's not a spiritual one, and I think that we get stuck in between our brain, that physical reality that we're living, but that spiritual journey we're taking. We fight each other, ourselves, more than we think. And if we could get to the highest vibration of love and do things out of love, I think that we would be much further ahead. And I think that paying it forward and helping others and those selfless acts are not wasted, whether somebody appreciates them or not.
So powerful.
And going back to the beginning of our talk and how you said, how are you comfortable doing this and not proving yourself? I realized I don't need to. I'm not doing this for other people.
Right.
I'm not doing for validation. I don't
You're hugging you, baby.
Yeah, I
You're
don't
hugging you.
Yeah, exactly.
Just
I'm
like
not
Daniel said.
Yeah, I don't do TV for others. I don't do all I want to do is educate. And I think that when you have that active intent and purity, I think it comes back to you. And when you're helping others with that intent, it's not selfish gain. You get to that highest vibration, and that's the vibration I want to oscillate at all the time.
Yeah. It's all about the line, babe. There's this line. I have this wonderful a friend who described it in this way. And if you look at this line, and below the line you put hatred, regret, jealousy, depression, all of these lower vibrational feelings, and then you put all the high ones above, joy and everything else. Nothing can touch you if you stay ahead of that, above that line. And it's so hard to get yourself up there, and that's why we reach out. Like, again, that's why we do music. That's why we stay creative. Creativity is grounding. We do the things like you said. We didn't get to talk about the salt balls, for the love of Pete. Listen, there's all kind of things.
I got a problem. I got a bit of a problem. This is just one spot. I got more. I promise.
But you were also telling Kat too about, you take a salt bath and you could get these salt balls that you could, and again, there's so many things. Find your thing. Take your shoes off, hug a tree. I don't care how damn cold it is. Get your crystals, cleanse, do your sage.
I warn people, when you use the salt ball after the first use, it hurts.
Just don't rub so damn hard. Don't go in too aggressive. Don't go in after you just got out of traffic. You'll take your skin off.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
But that's the world we're in, baby. And we got to keep reaching out. I love how you've surrounded yourself with, she's taken all the negativity out around her. And I'll tell you, we're going to need a bigger salt lamp, sweetheart. We're going to just surround the whole world. Again, put it in your pockets, take a bath in it. Do the white light shower. I always tell the guys, because they're so quick. They need a quick thing. They have to either do it while they're driving or while they're sitting, if you know what I mean, or in the shower. So I tell them, go in the shower. It's white light, the hot water. And it's just going through your crown chakra and just running through, taking all the negativity right down the drain. Then you got to pull back up through your feet and replace that with light, because the light is you. You have the power. Again, just like the ghosts have the power to come or go. Why do you think that they stay? Because it's free will, and that's about us and our free will. Again, Katie, I just love that you came here tonight. I've been looking forward to this forever. You have an open invitation to come on. I want to talk more about empowering young people with abilities and helping them on the road to discovering themselves and how they can shut it off, turn it off in the times where they need that private time and their sanity back. And the whole thing is so important. And so important to tell light workers different things that they could do to keep their lights on in this world, because you and I both know light beats darkness. There's no doubts in our mind. Every time. And that's a lot of decades sitting here telling you guys this. So again, if you want a reading, I highly recommend you go to Katie Turner. It's KatieTurnerMedium.com.
KatieTurnerPsychic.com.
Psychic.com. Thank you. And you also have a Facebook Live. It's Let's Talk About It.
Yes, I do.
Can you tell us about that, please?
Very dear friend of mine who's actually going through a health problem right now. He was hospitalized. So, please, I ask for
Oh,
prayers for Richard Ruland.
Ruland,
He's a very
God
dear
bless
friend.
him.
We've actually got a GoFundMe. There's a GoFundMe page set up. So if anybody wants to go
Hey,
and
mods,
check
can you
that out,
find that? That would be
yeah,
in the Facebook, Richard
yeah,
Ruland,
because Richard's going through some stuff right
RULAND.
now. Again, these light workers are being attacked, right? Because of the spiritual stuff. So, but Richard's a
Yes,
wonderful, wonderful, well-versed paranormal expert. I'm going to call him an expert. He's going to get angry that I called him that, but he knows
yeah,
his
we
stuff.
all do.
And the podcast is called Let's Talk About It. So we've been on a hiatus for a little while.
Mhm.
But we're looking to get back into it once he's healed and he's back into his element again. And basically, we talk about all things paranormal. We sit here for 90
Wonderful.
minutes and basically do what you do. And we have,
It's
we have
wonderful.
guests at some point, and we talk about proper practices and safety precautions, and your do's and your don'ts and all of that stuff. So,
Yep.
really, what we're trying to do is educate people.
Right. And that's it. You're just trying to put it
Yeah,
out there because by talking to each other too, we not only reaffirm our own theories and everything else. So, yep, that's where I am on that. Oh wow, a different way to look at that. Like you said with
yeah,
the military. All this time I've told stories, 60 years I've told this story, almost 60, about my dad. And I never thought about the military connection between him and being a soldier. And I think just angry men because there were so many things in that house. And
mhm,
again, like you said, some people, there's a thing I'm researching tomorrow night, and I'm going to say this real quick and then let it go.
yeah,
It's the Black Hope Cemetery case, and I had forgotten about this. Goes back to Unsolved Mysteries, that wonderful show. Really happened. Based the movie Poltergeist on it. So there's a cemetery, and it was just basically overrun. They built a development on it. Now you've got 5 different houses in town affected by this, right?
mhm,
And they're going through, and I don't want to say irresponsibly, they're trying to do a story, they're producing, they're telling it, but again, it is in a way irresponsible to just fill in the blanks with it's Joe and the tractor. We know
right.
damn well it's something else. Oh, that irks me. They jump to conclusions, basically.
Mhm,
And I know you don't do that, and it's one of your pet peeves as well. So they're basically saying that all of these poor souls that have already gone through the day of having their graves and everything else. I'm sitting here thinking, I'm listening to this story. I'm going, okay, I would say at least 95% of these souls that were buried here have already crossed over. They could care less about their graves or that's not them. It's
right.
something taking advantage of the trauma
Mhm,
and the whole thing and working it something more evil, something more diabolical that
mhm,
is causing this because it's causing cancers, it's killing people. They lost 4 people to fast acting cancers, heart
mhm,
attacks, these kind of things. This is
mhm.
way out of the realm of some pissed off people that died in the 1930s.
Yep.
What do you think?
Oh, I agree.
Have to
Again, it
be.
goes I'm telling you, it goes to the spiritual warfare.
Yeah.
I think that when malevolence finds a niche to get in, when it finds a weakness, it's going to wreak havoc and chaos.
Right. And this is what Katie and I are saying. This is why Katie did the show Paranormal Survivor and tried so hard to explain these things so there wouldn't be people jumping to conclusions like this because leave these
Right.
people alone. Again, you die or it's like moving, you buy a new car. Do you give a crap where your old car that you just got rid of? No, you got this brand new sleek car. When you cross over there, you don't care about what happened to your old battle axe car shell that you were in. You know what I'm saying? That
Exactly.
you were driving around in. And to blame it on these people again, we got to dig deeper. And find out what's really going on in these cases. And that's my main thing too, is to let people not only know their power, but to understand ghosts because I think they've been getting I think they're most misunderstood,
Mhm.
in a lot of cases. And I think we can learn so much more when we open our eyes. Thanks for helping us keep our eyes and hearts open, Katie Turner.
Yes, of
It's
course.
been a
Thank you. Oh,
pleasure
thank
meeting you,
you.
sweetie.
Well, that's
Please come on again. I think we can do so many shows that
sure.
reach out and put light out there. And
Yeah,
thanks
for
for keeping
sure.
the lights on for us.
Yeah, thank you. It was my
Thank
pleasure. Thank you so much. And thanks to everybody in the chat. It was a pleasure to meet all of you.
I'm sorry I took up all her time. I told you I was going to be selfish. I wasn't kidding. Mama Cisco doesn't lie. I was
Okay.
so excited. Next time we come on, I promise we'll get all the questions and everything else. But I just had so many things I wanted to touch on with you. The
Oh,
timeline
thank
thing
you.
amazes me. The Mandela effect. I think there's an awakening going on, and there's an ascension, and I think we're all chose to be here at this time. So
Yep.
never give up the ship, guys. Keep the lights on. If you need your lights, you come here on Sunday. You come here tomorrow night. We're going to talk about that Black Hope Cemetery haunting, and I'd love to get you back real soon. Okay,
Absolutely.
sweetheart.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you
you
so much.
so much. Listen, guys, you're going to just have to dance it off tonight. I think we're going to go out with a little let's take some advice from the animals. They know. They're chill and their unconditional love. I love you guys unconditionally. Thank you for being here tonight. Katie
Oh,
Turner,
thank you.
thank you again.
Thank
Katie Turner, psychic.com. Go
Oh,
there, get a reading. It's a great gift. It's a great stocking stuffer, right? You know, and get somebody a reading with Katie so they can get aligned with their own
oh,
self. I'll tell you what.
thanks, guys.
I love you, baby. Good night, everybody. Thanks for being here.
Bye.
Thank you, Maud, so much. And Sir Bowden, I love you, baby. Thanks for being good in the chat. I didn't have to put you in the corner, baby. He can get out of hand. Good night, everybody. Good night.